AI, AI, AI. It seems like that's all that anyone wants to talk about these days. And today, what we're going to talk about is how to survive the AI witch hunt, especially with the advent of AI checkers being used in publishing. What does that mean? What does that look like? And how can you protect your work from AI legations? Hi, welcome to Forward Writers. I'm your host, Jonathan Jordan, and this is the show where we talk all about how to move your book forward. So, a huge topic these days, obviously, is AI, the good, the bad, the ugly. In the writing space, you'll find most people debating what it means to live in a world where more and more people are using AI to create their books. And for the most part, the chatter that I see is largely negative. Writers and editors mostly say that it should not be used, and I would largely agree with that, especially when we are talking specifically about the actual generation of content, because AI cannot actually write. I hate saying AI written books. I don't think that's a thing. I think only humans can write books. Something can be an AI generated book, but it cannot be truly AI written. And I would say the same thing with editing. You really need a human doing that because you need a soul, you need intuition, you need everything that AI is lacking. However, if you've been spending any time online, then you already know that a lot of people have been using AI to create books, throw them up on Amazon, and try to make a buck off of it. Largely, I think that practice is going to backfire, but we're already seeing repercussions of people choosing to use AI to make their books. One of the repercussions of people using AI so much to create books and throw them up on Amazon is it's led to this AI witch hunt. So, if you've followed the headlines at all this year, there was a case where the author Mia Ballard, she was an independent author who wrote a book called Shy Girl, and she self-published it originally, but it was selling really well. And so one of the big five publishing companies, Hachette, reached out and said, "Hey, we want to offer you a contract. We want to do this thing the traditional route if you're willing." So she signed a contract with them. They published Shy Girl in the UK. They were in the process of bringing it over to the US, but for about a year, there had been all these allegations circling online that Mia had used AI, that it was actually an AI written book. And so finally, what happened was an article came out in the New York Times that alleged that three different AI checks were done on Shy Girl, and they all showed over 70% of the content was AI generated. So, obviously, being a big headline like the New York Times, Hachette ended up saying, okay, we're going to cancel the release of the book in the US and we're going to pull the book from shelves in the UK. So there was a ton of chatter after that, and the only thing that really Mia said about the situation was how negatively it had affected her mental health, being accused of using AI because she still stands by saying that she never touches it. She didn't use AI to write the book. But what she did say was that people should be careful about the editors that they hire. And so, reading between the lines, it kind of seemed like she was saying that her editor had rewritten a lot of her book using AI, and that was the reason that so much of the book was showing up as AI content whenever it was run through these AI checkers. Okay. At the time when I heard that, being an editor myself, it felt a bit false because I thought, well, if that much of the book was rewritten, then that's not really that goes beyond even a developmental edit. And at the end of the day, the author has to say yes to every change that an editor makes. They have to have the final say and the final approval. So at first, I didn't really buy that story. However, a recent situation and digging into this story more has led me to kind of swing a little bit the other way and say, you know what? Mia might actually be telling the truth. And for all of us out there who are in the process of getting published or are in the publishing industry, we really need to be cautious about the AI witch hunt and making allegations against other writers. So, what I want to turn the attention to now is explaining why some books are being flagged as AI through these AI checkers and why we can't really trust any of them. And more importantly, what you need to do to protect yourself. Okay. So, first, let's talk about some of the recent situations people have encountered with AI checking systems. So, publishers are going to be doing this a lot more now, especially on the heels of the Mia Ballard situation. None of them want to end up in the New York Times and have their name dragged through the mud. So, you're going to see AI checking being a practice now. So if you're trying to get published, you need to know that a publishing company, if they reach out with a contract, then they are going to ask you if you used any AI in the creation of your book. That's something that you have to disclose. And even if you say no, they're probably not going to take your answer at face value, and they're probably going to run an AI check anyway. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about how these AI checkers are actually working and why we can't completely trust them. Because there's been a number of situations where people have run their book through an AI checker themselves. And, one checker will say 0% of this is AI. Another AI checker will say 90% of your book is AI generated. And of course, the people who are seeing this, they're saying, well, I can't trust this because I know that I wrote my book before AI was even a thing. And people have done similar tests with even some of their favorite books. So they'll take something like Lord of the Rings or To Kill a Mockingbird or Frankenstein, something much, much older than the use of AI. They'll run it through these AI checkers, and these AI checkers keep saying, oh, yeah, this book is definitely AI generated. So again, a lot of people out there are rolling their eyes at these AI checkers because it seems like they are highly, highly unreliable. So underneath the surface of AI, the part that you don't see is the large language model, what's called an LLM. Okay. So LLMs are designed to take in large pieces of data and then they detect patterns. Okay. Then they exploit those patterns to mimic human writing. Again, this is why I will never call it AI writing, because underneath all of that is actual human writing that is informing the system. Okay. So, like it or not, here's what you need to understand: old books equal existing data that is being put into the LLM. And by old book, I don't even mean something like Frankenstein or A Tale of Two Cities that's 200 plus years old. I mean anything that's written before 2025, okay? This is why Anthropic, the parent company that created Claude, this is why they're being sued, is because they wanted Claude to be the best writer, so they fed 3.7 bazillion books into their LLM so that they could improve the model's generative prowess. So once that data goes in, it stays in the system. And more data is streaming in every second so that they can improve the results. Now let's get back to the AI checkers, because really it would be better for us to describe them as super powered plagiarism checkers. It's really, really tough to detect in the code what is AI generated because AI has learned from humans. So there's not some kind of magical scan that they're doing that can show 100% that something actually is generated by AI. You just can't really prove that or do that. Instead, what these AI checkers are doing are looking for the patterns. They're looking for whether similar content already exists out in the world. So, if you run a classic book through an AI checker, the system doesn't understand that you're inputting the original work that's already in the system. Okay. All it knows is that the patterns that you've added also exist elsewhere. So if you put To Kill a Mockingbird in there, well, guess what? Quotes from To Kill a Mockingbird and descriptions of To Kill a Mockingbird are all over the place in the data set. So it's going to return a result that says, hey, this is likely AI generated because it's pulling in stuff that we know is already out there in the world. But if the text is already inside the LLM, then it assumes that your new input that you just added is a generation of the original text. Okay, I know a little bit of that's hard to follow. Took me a minute to get all of this too. But yeah, so if you put any classic book into a AI checker, it's going to ring alarm bells and it's going to say, hey, this is totally ripped off. Let's shift to why this matters for you as an author, especially if you're still working on your manuscript. If you decide to run your manuscript through AI because you want to get feedback, maybe you're looking at how expensive it is to get a developmental editor and you're saying, I can't afford that. You know what? I'm just going to run my manuscript through AI and I'm just going to see what it tells me needs to be improved. But here's the thing. And I realize I just said, here's the thing, which is one of AI's favorite phrases. I've really got to stop doing that. But unless you are using an enterprise level account of ChatGPT or Claude or whatever system you are using, unless you're using an account that doesn't feed their LLM, your unpublished manuscript is now becoming a part of that big data bucket. Your unpublished manuscript is now in the system as an existing work. The data is already out there. So when a publisher comes along, or just a nosy reader, when they put your book into an AI checker, guess what? It's going to be flagged because you already put that data into the system. It's going to say, whoa, we already see a lot of this is in the system. So there's a good chance that this thing is AI generated instead of human written. So when I understood that that's how they work, it made me want to revisit the whole Mia Ballard situation because I'm starting to think that, yeah, maybe she has a point. There may be a possibility where her editor fed her unpublished manuscript into an LLM to speed up the editing process, to clean up things, to revise things and say, oh, make this more succinct or make this more dynamic. And if the editor did that, well, then guess what? You run AI detection on Shy Girl, then it's going to get flagged because that unedited manuscript is still inside of the LLM. It's still part of the data set. Not saying that's what actually happened. We don't know for sure, but that's a very real possibility. For all of you aspiring authors out there, and if you're a freelance editor, your safest bet right now is to never put your full unpublished manuscript through any kind of LLM. I know that it's super tempting to speed up the revision process, the editing process for yourself, but once you do that, your words now belong to the large language model. It belongs to the AI program. Okay. And so you could be setting yourself up for a situation later on where you get an AI legation, which is what I call allegations about AI. You're going to have the AI witch hunters come after you because now that you have your words in the system, when it gets run through the checker, it's going to trigger a false positive. And that could kill your chances with a publisher to get a publishing deal. Could also just kill your credibility with readers because now they think that you used AI when maybe you really didn't. I'm willing to bet that a lot of people don't understand that's how the process is working for people. Because what we're seeing now is this whole group of AI witch hunters who are making allegations against people's books and who are taking books into these AI checking programs so that they can point the finger. And it's not really fair. In fact, I just wrote about this on my Substack, and unfortunately, the very first comment on the Substack was a rather profanity laden comment. This is why you never read the comments, right? That's the first rule of the internet. But the person who left the comment, they were saying, people really just need to stop making allegations. Like, we as creators need to stand our ground and say F you to all of these AI detection systems. And you know what? I don't really disagree with him. I wish the commenter had done it without the language, but I do agree that we need to be a lot more cautious about pointing our fingers at other creators, and we need to find better ways to use our time than trying to figure out who's using AI and who's not. We could be pouring that creative energy into our own projects and into making the world a better place, because that's not making the world a better place, just making allegations against other people. But I had an experience like this myself recently. I had an experience where I did a post making a joke about AI. And because I made a joke about AI, I started getting all these negative comments from people who assumed that I had also used AI to write my course. So I've experienced this myself, how people are like literally looking for this and they are going out of their way to run AI checks on authors' works instead of just reading books for the fun of it. And you know what? If you don't like a book, then fine. Just put it down and go read something that you do like. You don't have to go running it through a system and then pointing fingers, because eventually I do believe the pendulum is going to shift. AI is not going to go away, but I do think we're going to eventually reach a middle ground where writers and editors figure out ways to use it that don't actually put words on the page, that don't change the words on the page, and where it can actually be a benefit. So I'm not totally anti-AI. I think there are some great uses for it, and I've found some really creative uses for it, just not with writing and editing. So if you are an author, if you're an aspiring author, again, don't cut the corners, okay? Do not feed your manuscript to the AI. You could be setting yourself up for failure later on. You could be setting yourself up to lose a publishing deal. You could be setting yourself up to get accused of using AI and having the witch hunters come after you. And I don't want that to happen to anyone because it's really annoying. So now that you know how the LLMs work and how the AI detection systems work, hopefully we can all agree that, yeah, they're kind of a joke and they don't really prove anything. But most of all, let's just choose to be kind out there. Let's choose to be supportive. If you don't like something, you don't have to read it. No one's forcing you to, okay? Go do something else better with your time. Create. Enjoy someone else's creation. Write positive reviews for books and authors that you do like. Fill the world with positivity and goodness. We don't have to go around pointing our fingers at each other. And it's really unfortunate that's where we've landed, and that I've even played a part in that in a very, very small way. So if you have other comments or you have questions about how these systems work, I'd love to hear from you. You can drop that down in the comments here on the video, or you can reach out to me, because I'm trying to learn more and more about this so that I can protect myself, but more importantly, so that I can protect the authors that I'm working with from these same type of AI-llegations that are out there. So in the meantime, keep writing, keep moving your books forward. No matter what type of book you're working on, you are a storyteller, and we can change the world one story at a time.